From giant tortoises hiding on volcanic islands to a bee so rare it vanished for nearly 40 years, here are 10 species scientists declared extinct that somehow came back. Number 10. Fernandina giant tortoise. Let's begin in the Galapagos Islands. For more than a century, scientists believed the Fernandina giant tortoise had completely disappeared. The last confirmed sighting happened back in 1906. After that, decades passed without anyone finding another one. Since Fernandina Island is covered with rough volcanic terrain and active lava fields, many experts assumed the harsh environment had wiped the species out. Then, in 2019, everything changed. During an expedition across the island, researchers discovered a single elderly female tortoise wandering through the landscape. At first, they couldn't believe what they had found. The species had been missing for over 100 years, so scientists carefully collected DNA samples before making any announcement. When the test results came back, they confirmed the incredible news. The tortoise truly belonged to the species everyone thought had vanished forever. She was later given the name Fernanda. Even more exciting, scientists also found fresh tracks and signs suggesting that other tortoises may still be living somewhere on the island. Today, researchers continue searching the island, hoping Fernanda isn't the last survivor. Number 9. New Guinea Big-Eared Bat. Next is a tiny animal that completely disappeared from science for over a century. The New Guinea Big-Eared Bat was first collected in the late 1800s. After those original museum specimens, nobody ever found another one. Year after year, researchers searched forests across Papua New Guinea without success. Eventually, many experts assumed the species had gone extinct. Then, in 2012, 2 scientists set up a routine bat trap during a wildlife survey. Among the captured bats was one with unusually large ears. At first, they thought they had discovered an entirely new species, but after comparing it with museum collections, they realized something even more surprising. They hadn't found a new bat. They had rediscovered one that had been missing for more than 120 years. Even today, scientists know very little about this mysterious animal. Its population size, breeding habits, and preferred habitat are still being studied, showing just how many secrets nature continues to hide. Number 8. Jamaican Iguana. The next comeback happened thanks to a hunting dog. The Jamaican iguana was officially declared extinct in the 1940s after habitat destruction and invasive predators devastated its population. For decades, nobody reported seeing one alive. Then, in 1990, a local pig hunter experienced something completely unexpected. His dog returned from the forest carrying a large injured lizard. Instead of ignoring it, the hunter brought the animal to wildlife experts. To everyone's surprise, it wasn't an ordinary lizard. It was a living Jamaican iguana. That single discovery launched one of the Caribbean's biggest conservation efforts. Researchers soon located a tiny surviving population. Today, the Jamaican iguana is still critically endangered, but instead of existing only in history books, it once again has a fighting chance to survive. Its remarkable return proves that sometimes all it takes is one unexpected discovery to rewrite everything scientists believed about a species. Number 7. Lord Howe Island stick insect. Imagine an insect so rare that scientists believed it had completely disappeared from Earth. That was the story of the Lord Howe Island stick insect, often called the tree lobster, because of its large size and unusual appearance. The species once lived across Australia's Lord Howe Island, but in 1918, everything changed. A ship accidentally introduced rats to the island, and the invasive predators quickly wiped out almost the entire stick insect population. For decades, no one found a single survivor. By the 1960s, scientists officially declared the species extinct. Then came one of the most unbelievable wildlife discoveries ever recorded. In 2001, researchers climbed Ball's Pyramid, a massive volcanic rock rising from the ocean about 20 kilometers away from Lord Howe Island. The rocky island looked almost impossible for large insects to survive on. Yet hidden among a few small shrubs, scientists found a tiny colony of giant stick insects. DNA testing later confirmed they were the very species everyone thought had vanished forever. Since then, breeding programs have successfully increased their numbers, and conservationists hope they can eventually return the insects to their original home. Number 6. Wallace's giant bee. Now let's meet the world's largest bee. Wallace's giant bee is unlike any other bee on Earth. Its body is several times larger than a honeybee, and its huge jaws help it collect tree resin to build nests inside termite mounds. The bee was first discovered in the 1800s on remote Indonesian islands. Then it completely disappeared. For over 100 years, nobody saw another one. In 1981, an American scientist finally rediscovered the giant bee and even observed how it lived. But after that, it vanished once again. Nearly 4 decades passed without another confirmed sighting. Many experts believed this time the species had finally gone extinct. Then, in 2019, a team of researchers searched island after island, carefully inspecting countless termite nests. After days of searching, they finally spotted a single female giant bee hiding inside a tree. The moment was historic. It became the first time the species had ever been photographed alive in the wild. Although Wallace's giant bee still faces threats from habitat destruction, its rediscovery reminded the world that even animals missing for generations can still survive in isolated places. Number 5. Greater Bermuda Land Snail. Most people would never imagine a tiny snail becoming one of conservation's greatest success stories. The Greater Bermuda Land Snail had almost disappeared because of habitat loss, invasive predators, and environmental changes. For many years, scientists believed the species was gone. Then, researchers discovered a tiny surviving population living in an unexpected place near Bermuda's capital. Fewer than 200 snails remained. That discovery launched an international rescue effort. Conservationists carefully collected the remaining snails and worked with breeding specialists to increase their numbers. The program exceeded everyone's expectations. Instead of disappearing forever, the population grew from fewer than 200 individuals to well over 100,000. Today, several healthy colonies once again live in the wild. The Greater Bermuda Land Snail may be small, but its comeback is one of the biggest conservation victories in recent history. It proves that saving a species doesn't always require thousands of animals. Sometimes, all it takes is finding the last few before it's too late. Number 4. Coastal Marten. Next is a small forest hunter that quietly survived while everyone thought it was gone. The coastal marten once lived throughout California's coastal forests, but years of trapping for its valuable fur, combined with habitat destruction, caused its numbers to crash. By the early 1900s, scientists believed the animal had disappeared from much of its historic range. Then, in 1996, a wildlife biologist made an unexpected discovery. A small population of coastal martens was still living deep inside Northern California's forests. Finding them was only the beginning, because these animals are extremely shy and spend most of their lives hidden among thick vegetation. Researchers struggled to learn how many remained. Years later, scientists placed hidden cameras and collected DNA samples from hare traps throughout the region. The results showed dozens of different martens were still surviving across several forest areas. Although their population remains small and wildfires continue to threaten their habitat. Number 3. Sunflower sea star. Our next species didn't disappear on land. It almost vanished beneath the ocean. The sunflower sea star is one of the largest sea stars in the world, growing over 3 feet across. For years, it played a vital role in keeping ocean ecosystems balanced by feeding on sea urchins. Then disaster struck. A deadly disease known as sea star wasting syndrome spread across the Pacific coast. Within just a few years, billions of sea stars died. The sunflower sea star suffered some of the worst losses, disappearing completely from many parts of the coastline. Its disappearance created another problem. Without enough sea stars hunting them, sea urchin populations exploded. Those urchins then destroyed massive underwater kelp forests that countless marine animals depended on. For years, scientists feared the sunflower sea star might never recover. But in 2025, divers exploring marine waters off Northern California made an incredible discovery. They found several healthy sunflower sea stars living in an area where the species had been absent for years. It was a hopeful sign that at least some populations had survived the devastating outbreak. Researchers continue monitoring these survivors, hoping they can help restore the balance of the ocean ecosystem once again. Number 2. The recently rediscovered marsupials. Our runner-up actually includes 2 different species that scientists believed had disappeared thousands of years ago. The pygmy long-fingered possum and the ring-tailed glider were only known through fossils and museum collections. Based on the available evidence, researchers believed both species had gone extinct roughly 6,000 years ago. But recent discoveries completely changed that story. While studying museum specimens and reviewing old records, scientists realized one preserved animal had been incorrectly identified decades earlier. That clue led researchers to investigate remote forests in New Guinea. There, they uncovered evidence that both marsupials were still alive. Local communities had known about these animals for years, but scientists simply hadn't connected the information with the supposedly extinct species. The discovery became one of the most exciting examples of what's known as a Lazarus species, an animal that appears to return from extinction after disappearing for an incredibly long time. It also reminds us that some of Earth's most remote forests still hold amazing secrets waiting to be discovered. Number 1. The dire wolf, Sordo. Taking the number 1 spot is probably the most talked about animal on this list, the dire wolf. Unlike the other species we've covered, this isn't a simple rediscovery. Dire wolves disappeared around the end of the last ice age and were known only from fossils for thousands of years. Recently, however, scientists used ancient DNA recovered from fossil remains to study what made dire wolves genetically different from modern gray wolves. Using that information, researchers created genetically engineered wolf pups that carry several traits of the extinct predator. These animals are not true cloned dire wolves. Instead, they are modern wolves that have been genetically modified to resemble some of the characteristics of their ancient relatives. The project has sparked huge debates among scientists. Some believe it represents an important step toward future conservation technology. Others argue that recreating similar traits is very different from actually bringing an extinct species back. Either way, it marks one of the most fascinating developments in modern genetics and shows just how far science has advanced.